Right. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. Please unmute your mic and let's see if I am audible enough, at the same time visible. Stephen. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. I can see your comments. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in today for the technical session that we are about to start. Basically, the technical session today will be covering the geothermal sector, talking about the missed opportunities and why we have projects that are failing before even the bid turns on. The speaker today will be Engineer Phyllis Gadoni, who is a drilling engineer at the Geothermal Development Company in Kenya. Allow me to take you through what SPE is all about and how we came up with the collaboration between SPE Africa region and the Kenyan section. So basically, Society of Petroleum Engineers is a global organization that fosters career development to its members. So members who are in the energy sector, regardless of whatever source of energy it is, that is either renewable or in the oil and gas, it focused basically on the technical development to ensure that its members understand what's going on and what has been going on in the industry. So it has 127,000 members across 15 regions and in 145 countries. There are countries that have even more than one technical sessions to just benefit from this beautiful organization that fosters, professional development. So the main mission, it is to connect the global community of engineers, scientists, and other related energy professionals, and to exchange knowledge, innovate, and advance technical and professional competence regarding the oil and gas field and other energy resources. So what is the vision and what are its values? It is to advance the oil and gas producing and related energy communities' ability to meet the world's energy needs in a safe, secure, and sustainable manner. And you can see that in the Kenyan section, we are trying as much as possible to speak the renewable story, or rather the song, I'd call it a song that is happening in Africa, particularly in Kenya, the new gold that has been found, the geothermal. It's a renewable energy that is powering the country's nation in all of us. Actually, we can say now 70% of the electricity is coming from the geothermal sector. So what is unique about SPE? First and foremost, it's not for profit. What does this mean? It is basically not here to make money and to, like it's what can I call a goods. I don't generally that's what it is, and that is not what SPE is all about. So we exist for the benefit of our members. So it is its people for the people. They are the engineers, scientists who develop these problems, and they are the ones who are actually solving and engaging members and students, literally everyone in the field. So our technical content for the programs is developed mainly by members, just as what I'm stating here, and the beneficiaries are its members. So most of the studies that you're going to find in SPE are developed by the members, and it is the same members who will still visit the website to solve a problem or to understand a specific concept of the particular area of the industry that they are in. So the members, basically, they are in different fields, ranging all the way from engineers to managers to executives, consultants, students, and other, other professionals in the geology field and so on. So basically, that is what SPE is all about. And in its part of the goals to foster professional development, that is why we are here today with Engineer Phyllis, who is going to take us through what geothermal is all about. Join in with me today is Engineer Peter Karu. who will introduce our speaker before we officially start the conversation. Engineer Karu, are you able to hear me? Okay, he can hear me, but he is muted. Just give me a second to unmute him. Engineer Phyllis, if you don't mind, you can start sharing your screen so that we can kickstart the conversation.
Hi, good afternoon. Please confirm that you can hear me as I work towards sharing my.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. As we wait for Peter, I'll also be sharing. Just give me a few minutes.
Thank you so much. Engineer Peter Karu, kindly proceed. Please unmute your mic. The issue has been resolved. Thank you. All right.
Can you hear me now? Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, sorry for that. I was muted on my end and I couldn't unmute. So as mentioned, my name is Engineer Peter Karu, and I think it's
Engineer Karu, I think you've gone mute again. Kindly unmute. Yes, okay. Proceed, please.
sorry, apologies for that. I don't know what's the last thing you guys heard.
You were introducing yourself.
Okay, so my name is Engineer Peter Karu, 14 years experience in oil, gas, and geothermal. And it is from these activities that I am proud to introduce a peer from the industry, Engineer Phyllis, who is from the geothermal sector. And I think it's keen that we are able to draw these correlations and these integrations of between oil and gas and geothermal, and that is why I basically gave you a slight introduction of myself just for context. So Engineer Phyllis Gadoni is an award-winning engineer with over a decade experience in the geothermal sector. She is currently the drilling planning engineer at the Geothermal Development Company, GDC. She's the founder and managing director of Amani Thrive Hub Limited, a company that focuses on building capacity through soft skills, training, coaching, and mentorship. She holds a BSc in electrical engineering and an MA in project planning and management from the University of Nairobi, which I am proud to say we are both alumni of. As mentioned earlier, she's an award-winning engineer, and in this case, she is the African Queen of Energy Professional Technical Award winner for 2020, and the WING, which stands for Women in Geothermal, Core Values Award winner in 2021 in the category of courageousness. In the category of courageous. She was a finalist and the first runners-up in the Accenture Gender Mainstream Awards 2022 in the category of Positive Role Model East Africa. So as you have heard, we are in good hands, in the hands of Engineer Phyllis, who is a respected peer in the geothermal industry. So With that, Karibu engineer, please take us through your technical section. Thank you.
Thank you very much and good afternoon. Please confirm that you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Good afternoon, Engineer Phyllis.
Good afternoon, and at least see me. Please confirm that you can see me as well.
Yes, we can see you, but we cannot see the screen. Okay, now it's visible.
You should be able to see the screen now.
Yes, please proceed.
All right, thank you very much, and my apologies for being a little late. I was rushing from one meeting into this one. I know I have delayed you by about 9 minutes. I apologize for that. I hope we can recover that so that we finish by at least 9 minutes late. So I am delighted to be here and to be part of this conversation about Africa for Africa. And I really do hope that by the end of this conversation, then we can be enlightened and we can have a different perspective and we can be a little more informed. I am really do hoping that you have a lot of questions prepared for me and I'll be able to answer them. So, as I said, my name is Gadoni Mathenge. My preferred name is Gadoni, but you can call me by any three. I work for Geothermal Development Company, and because of that, and having allowed me to share with you what I've learned in this organization, then allow me to share a little bit about the Geothermal Development Company, which is the organization that I do work for. So GDC was formed in 2008 as a special purpose vehicle to accelerate development of geothermal resources in the country. And while it was formed, two major issues were to be addressed. One was to accelerate the development of geothermal resources, and number two was to absorb the upfront risks that are associated with geothermal development, and thereby making geothermal fields bankable projects for private sector, of course, public and private sector. Now you may wonder what our mandate is. And by the way, before I continue, allow me to make a few assumptions. I am assuming that we all know what geothermal energy is, and therefore I will not be describing what geothermal energy is. That is the assumptions I have made. I hope I'm correct. Moderator, are those fair assumptions to make that we all know what geothermal energy is?
Correct. They are reacting with their thumbs up, yes. However, you can give a short introduction because we are having a great team from all the way from Italy as well.
So again, so allow me then to say what GDC or Geothermal Development Company, whose what mandate it is. We are owned by government, and among the things that we do is one, to undertake geothermal resource development. Two, we manage proven steam fields. Three, we promote and develop direct uses of geothermal resources. We also develop human capacity for geothermal development. We support the government in resource mobilization for geothermal development, as well as facilitate private sector entry into geothermal sector. And I know you might wonder, how do we do that? So we do that by carrying out scientific studies. We do that by sourcing for government licensing and permits. We do that by procuring social licenses. We do that by drilling to get the steam in our geothermal fields. We do that also by development of key infrastructure in our projects, like water, like roads and well pads, as well as land acquisition. So a little history of geothermal energy in Kenya, which I hope we must know a little about. Then Kenya is geothermal potential is about 10,000 megawatts. In Africa is about 20,000 megawatts. So you can see that about half of the potential then is here in Kenya, and it's largely found in the Rift Valley. In Kenya, we have about 950 megawatts of installed capacity, at least over 950, of which this makes 48% of Kenya's energy mix. And we majorly use this energy for electricity generation. We have about 14 private developers who are licensed and 2 public developers. And right now we are generating this over 950 megawatts of installed capacity is from 2 fields, and the third field is at advanced stage of development. That makes Kenya a geothermal leader in Africa and the 6th largest globally. Now, we are at 950 megawatts of installed capacity, but that is not where the story started. So our story of geothermal development in the country started in the early 50s, where initial exploration and features and initial exploration was done. And after that, there was a bit of a slow development. And then there was renewed development towards around 1970s with support from World Bank. So around 1981 to 1985 is where now we did the commissioning of the 45 megawatts at Olkaria. And this was done in phases of the first 15 megawatts turbine, then another 15 megawatts turbine, then a third one, making the 45 in the 4 to 5 years. In 1982, something very interesting happened in Kenya because this is when Geothermal Resources Act was enacted, and this provided a legal framework for exploration, for licensing, and for investment. Again, in 1997, we had the Kenya Power evolving from to KenGen. So then there was one organization that was just Kenya Power, which was doing both generation and power lighting. And then now we had the generation, which offered now central operation for geothermal power expansion. Towards the 2000 to 2010s, we've had a lot of major expansions in the country. And especially if you consider an year like 2004, where we had the session paper 4 on energy, and this is what then allowed for the state to bring up a special company that then would develop geothermal energy so that we can work on de-risking and also acceleration of development of geothermal energy. So around then, in between then again, 2000 to 2010 is also when now at 2006, we also had the Energy Act. This significantly, again, removed the ERC, and then now we have established the ERC, which is now what causes or becomes the anchor for section reforms. In 2011 and onward, we have had, well, quite some great improvement in terms of development, where we also now had the modular wellhead and plant strategy ads, which added about 85 megawatts. And now towards 2023, 2025 is where we even have independent power producers in Menengai to bring new geothermal energy capacity. At Menengai, the target is 105 megawatts for phase 1. We already have 35 megawatts into the grid from one of the IPPs and hoping to have the other 2 on board by early next year, towards the end of the year or early next year. So our vision is bold. Our vision is ambitious. And it is to ensure that by 2030, we will have doubled, we have a capacity of about 5,000 megawatts from geothermal. And considering that we are just under 1,000, then I must say this is bold, it's ambitious, it's something that we must work towards. Now, this is just a graph of the growth, and I really wanted to show you this graph so that even as we try to understand why projects fail even before they start, then we understand where we have come from, especially because Kenya is leading in Africa. And I can only hope that you appreciate this graph, having moved all the way from 1985, where we had the first 45 megawatts, to now where we have about 985 in 2025. That the growth, especially between 2013 and now, the last 10 to 15 years, has been tremendous. And we shall be looking at what are some of the things Kenya has done and what are some of these hurdles that Kenya has been able to overcome. So you may wonder, what is this that was not done in 1985, in 2003, that all of a sudden has been done over and above in between 2013 to now to be able to accelerate? Now, allow me then to indulge you in what I think are the key strategies that are behind this growth. And in explaining this, I also do hope that you are going to be identified the gaps that could also have been there that we were able to bridge. So one of the issues that, or one of the advantages, or one of the strategies that the government of Kenya has been able to do is one, the strong policy and legal frameworks. You consider in 1982, where we had the first Geothermal Resources Act, and then which was again updated in 2019. And this establishes clear legal basis for geothermal exploration and development. And this then allows organizations that are to develop to be able to move quickly and faster. In 2008, we had development of feed-in tariffs by the government of Kenya, and this was feed-in tariffs for renewable energy. This then allowed or attracted private investors because then they knew that at least the return on investment would be somehow, better, and the investments in Kenya were then a little more attractive. The government led the risk mitigation through the Geothermal Development Company, which I said is a special purpose vehicle that was specifically formed in 2008 to de-risk geothermal development, but also to fast track development. And for sure, I think we can say that this organization has done what it was supposed to do, because if you look at then the growth between 2008, where we were just under 200, to now where we are at almost 985 megawatts, then I think we could say that that's something we have been able to do. And by de-risking, then the government was able to absorb all the upfront costs involved in geothermal development, especially in exploration. And then this then allowed private sector to come in as IPP, as independent power producers to invest. This gave a lot of confidence to the investors, because then they were coming to invest in a field that had already proven steam, and theirs was just to put money on the table and expect some form of return at the end of their investment. And I would say this is one of the models that has been quite successful here in Kenya. Of course, in terms of funding, as we could say that geothermal development requires quite an amount of money. And we have had substantial funding from government, but also a lot of will and improved funding from our international partners, who, including but not limited to AFDB, to JICA, for Africa, and also several organizations that have come in, not only just to give us money, but also in terms of capacity building to ensure that even as we get the resources we require, we are also sustainable in the long run. Of course, in terms of scientific capability and strategic exploration, we have come a long way from when we had more manual ways of doing scientific studies and research to more improved ones with improvement in technology. We have improved in terms of capacity, in terms of our expertise to be able to do the exploration and interpretation of data, and also to do modeling. One of the things that we'll be looking forward is one of the risks that, or one of the things that people shy, were reasons why people shy away from investment in geothermal. And one of it is lack of certainty in terms of the availability of the steam, of the resource. And in this case, well, I would say that technology has really helped us much, but also our efforts as a country, as Africa, of course, with the help of other development partners, we've really been able to grow much, to be able to deliver better, both in terms of exploration, but also in terms of drilling. And of course, the other thing I would say is that Kenya has had a clear vision of where it wants to be. We are looking towards Kenya, according to approximations, we think we will have doubled our energy demand in the next few years by 2030, and therefore then Kenya must be ready to provide the energy that is required to fit in the demand, or to suit in the demand. And because of that, Kenya has continuously had a vision and powered that vision to ensure that you're able to get that. And what better source than from geothermal energy, which makes the best baseload, of course, because it's not affected by energy, unlike wind and solar, and also because it is quite reliable and green energy. And so to the topic of today, why geothermal projects fail before the first bit turns. I don't know about you, but I think this is true. And when I was asked to talk about why they fail even before they start, I thought this was a very timely topic to discuss, specifically because I have been in fieldwork in geothermal as a drilling engineer for many years. I have drilled many projects, I have drilled many wells, which has turned into several megawatts of steam. But I've also known that before the drilling begins, there are people who have put in the work. in terms of ensuring that then we are able to continue with the project or to even start the project. And what are these corridors I'm talking about? I'm talking about boardrooms where people sit and crack their heads in terms of what is the strategy, what are they going to do. I'm talking about financing. We are saying that geothermal requires a lot of energy or a lot of money to develop. So where is the money coming from? How much money will we get, and how sustainable will be our source of money? Especially because even when you start, or even as you think of starting, you're thinking of large sums of money. And the other thing I would think of, or the other place I would think of, is in planning group. A planning engineer sitting, scratching their heads and trying to wonder, what must we do? What could go wrong? And what are the risks? If you ask me, these are just but a few of the reasons or the causes of failure of geothermal projects even before they start. And I really do hope that we can go through each one of them in brief and try to dissect each one of them. Please confirm that you can still hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So I have an exercise for you before we continue, just to make sure that we are on the same page. Okay. Okay. So I have an exercise. Please feel free to type. I will be following ahead. So I have a question. What is 1 plus 100? Please type. What is 1 plus 100? Even better yet, okay, 1 plus 100. Someone says is 101. I want you to be as fast as possible. And by the time I finish, I want you to give me the first answer that comes to you, or the first answer that you think of. Please don't give me the correct one. The first one that comes to mind. So what is 1 plus 100? Plus one another 100? I said 1 plus 100 plus another 100. Plus another 1,000. Plus 1,000. I hope you're not writing. You don't need to write. I don't want you to write on your notebooks. I want you to use your brain. So 1,201 plus 100. Plus 10. Plus 10. Plus 1,000. Plus 99. Mm-hmm. 2,400. So we were okay. I'm getting different answers. Okay. 2,410. 2,500. 2,400. Where are we? Okay, 2,410. I'm interested. Penina Chirchir, how did you get your answer as 2,500? Penina, if you could respond.
Penina, kindly unmute your mic. Okay, I think she can't hear us from her end.
Okay. Okay, so I think most people have said 2,410, and I think the answer is 2,410. And the purpose of this exercise is to remind you that sometimes when you are listening, you forget that you're actually listening. You're not actively listening. Deflect, and you move on to default mode, and then you make small mistakes. Yeah. So then allow me to continue. The answer is 24. Anyone else who got a different answer and would like to defend it?
Yes, I can see there is Miss Comment. She got 2311 and Benjamin Natapar. 2400 Engineer Karo.
Keith, 2400. Perhaps you can tell us how you got your answer. Anyone willing to demonstrate?
I don't know. I must have missed a 10 somewhere, but from what I was doing mentally, I think I got 20. Yeah.
Okay. So do you know which one you missed, or you don't know? Engineer Karo.
I wouldn't know.
All right. So the purpose of this exercise is to remind you to always be attentive, no matter what. Allow me then to continue with the presentation. We still have another 20 minutes. Oh yeah, an answer from admin. If you could assist me with the chat, there's Benjamin who says that 2311 plus 89 is 2400. About 89, but I thought I said 99. Did anyone
Yeah,
else hear
perhaps it's a
89?
communication. He didn't get it well.
He didn't get it well. All right. So Benjamin Nathapar, the last was 2311 plus 89. Okay. Go back to sharing. Okay, please confirm that you can see this.
Yes, it's visible.
All right. My internet is having a problem. Someone is fixing it. But as we fix it, I will give you another exercise. So if you can, unmute. If you can, unmute. So I have a question. All right. Someone is trying to fix my internet. I should be able to get back without interruptions in just a minute. And I believe we are back. So why do geothermal projects fail? Even before the bid times. The first one is high upfront costs. Now, exploration is expensive. And it's not just expensive, it's also uncertain. And drilling geothermal wells requires massive capital, often in tens of millions of dollars. And the thing is, however much you do the sciences, however much you do the exploration, however much you do the studies, the reservoir studies, and the surface studies, the only sure way to confirm the existence of the resource is by drilling. And therefore, we are looking at so much money that we need to invest upfront, not in stages, but upfront, even before we start. And even after that, after you brought all this money, the success rate is only up to about 40 to 60%, especially at exploration phase. And if you would compare this to, other sources like solar or wind, the cost is front-loaded, but the guarantee for these others is a little better. So the other thing, even in terms of upfront costs, so you're onboarding so much cost as you start, but it will take quite an amount of time, reasonable amount of time, up to even 7 years, to bring the project to life and to start bringing some form of income. The second reason is uncertain resource viability. So more often than not, we are faced with poor data or inaccurate modeling that can lead to under dry wells or even underperforming. And as I say, the only sure way to confirm the existence of a resource is by drilling. So imagine you have to put millions of dollars into studies, millions of dollars into exploration, and then the only way to be sure that the conditions you're looking for is by drilling. And therefore, you would really just have to ask yourself, are there other options, especially as an investor, are there other options or are there other investments that you would consider? The other issues are regulatory and permitting handles, where we have lengthy approval processes and unclear regulations that can stall projects indefinitely. And I'll be demonstrating some of the things that some of the regulations that require. For instance, in Kenya, you won't need you require the geothermal license, you require the license from the NEMA people, especially after an SDR has been done. You require, most of the time you find that our projects are in protected areas, and therefore you also now then need to work with the Kenya Forest Services to get another different license. And then even after you have gotten that, transitioning now from after exploration to now development is also another whole set of regulations that take quite a bit of time. And I would say that Kenya has gone ahead and developed, so we have a bit of experience. So imagine a country that is just onboarding and they are starting. It becomes extremely, extremely difficult. The other issues are also in terms of environmental concerns and the laws that are available. There are so many. Drilling in itself would require a lot of water, up to 2,500 liters per minute, especially when now you are at the drilling phase. So even at investment, when you're looking at exploration and you're trying to conceive the project, then you also need to imagine where is this water going to come from and how are you going to sustain it. So the level of licensing and requirements that are needed are quite a number. In Kenya, particularly, we faced something very interesting because between 2019 and 20, we had a freeze of power purchase agreements. And therefore, organizations and that were looking at signing PPAs at that time had a challenge because they could not go forward. So this could cause an issue. The other issue and a big issue, of course, is financing challenges, where, of course, the investors worry that of the high risk and the long payback times. I mean, we are looking at geothermal projects running for about 25 years. And if you have to invest X amount of money to get it back in over 10, 15 years, up to 25 years, and you would invest the same amount of money to get it in lesser time, of course, I think you would choose the lesser time. So financing has constantly been a challenge. And besides that, also lack of government incentives and in terms of also risk sharing that deter private capital. So the issue of technical complexity and lack of local expertise. As a country, especially in Kenya, we are very lucky because we have organizations like NAOC and GDC that have come a long way in terms of not just drilling, but not just drilling development, but also training of expertise. And we have several geoscientists, engineers, and technical expertise in our pool that are available, not just for the country, but also for the region. But then again, imagine when you're just starting. If you look at projects like K7B in Rwanda, it is said that they failed because of issues like so technical complexities, not understanding, not having the right expertise can make projects too expensive, especially when you have to continuously over-rely on foreign contractors. And of course, there is a bigger issue, and one of the elephants in the room is the stakeholder engagement and the social licenses. In this day and age, you have to ensure that your projects does not get community resistance. And how do you then ensure that you do not get community resistance? It is to ensure that you engage the community with the right information, but you also engage the community early enough. So we have had, especially in the country where projects have delayed, or some of them even have died because there was no local buy-in. Projects like the Mathenge in the Onkaria, the KNGen had to find a way of engaging the community and how they would, have mutual benefits in terms of being in that project. And therefore, this is something then that must be discussed, thought about, and planned on early, and engagements must start early. In several projects, you also find that the investor will come with a lot of, I don't know how to call them. They will give promises that they do not intend to meet. In my experience and in the experience as Kenyan as Africa, I have seen that it is better for you to say the truth to the communities to ensure that the promises you are making are reasonable, they are doable, they are bankable, and they are smart. Because right now, one of the things that could cause, even beyond financing, is community issues. And maybe you're wondering, yes, we have these challenges. We have 1, 2, 3, 6 challenges that becomes a problem when we're starting a project. But what then can we do? Or what have we been able to do? Now, one of the things that we can do is de-risking and exploration. So I'll give an example of what Kenya has been able to do from Menengai and also from the Okalu Geothermal project, which are the two projects that are actually able to, we are generating steam and electricity from only these two fields. So the government took the initiative of leading exploration. The de-risking part of it, and especially for the Menengai project, was taken over by government, and therefore invested a lot of money to ensure that steam was available. Yeah. So at early de-risking stages, then this means that the financiers are attracted to come and invest in your project because there's some form of confirmation that the resource exists, and therefore they feel as if the resource risk has come down or has been absorbed by government. Now, the other thing that we have been able to do is build strong public and private partnerships. And again, I'll give lessons that we learned from the Menengai Geothermal project, where collaboration between the government, the international financiers, and private companies has ensured that we have built great technical expertise. We have ensured that we have better funding models, and we also ensure that we have accountability in terms of projects. And while Menengai is now considered as a PPP framework project, I think it ensures that we have a lot of transparency. And also, I believe this is a framework in a market that we probably should focus and be able to take advantage of. Then the other issue is to think beyond electricity. Most of the projects, as I said, in Kenya, most of geothermal is used for electricity generation. But there are so many other ways that geothermal energy, the steam and the heat can be used for economic development. Look at the heating and the greenhouses that are happening in Naivasha, Naivasha being one of the places in Kenya here that is providing that it supports growth of flowers, of rose flowers, and other issues and other sectors rather. In GDC, we've been able to have models, especially at the Menengai project, where we are doing demonstration for how crops can be dried, how we can heat fish farms so that we can be able to unlock economic benefits. So if also as we think and as we conceptualize ideas, we think beyond electricity and look at all the forms that we can be able to use geothermal energy, then I believe that will be also a good way to attract investors and to ensure that our projects have turnover. The other issue is integration of other resources, where we ensure that if for instance, in Salton, there is co-development of critical minerals like lithium and water salination that make the project a little more financially viable. So even as you look at geothermal development, also look at what is the other thing that you can do in the same processes to be able to increase the value of your project. The other issue we would look at is a scale in terms of phases. So we're saying that the initial amount, especially at scientific studies and exploration, is very expensive. But then we could also consider facing the project so that now once perhaps you've done, you know at least the existence of thing, then you can have phased developments to allow for learning, you build up infrastructure gradually, and of course ensure that all the money is not needed at the same time. This would allow then the project to continue gradually. And of course, the last thing is to invest, the last but not least, is to invest on local capacity. And this is why we ensure that even as we continue to train geologists and engineers and technicians, and even as you try, because most of the time we are borrowing or we are getting experts from abroad and from overseas, then we ensure that in the same cycle, We are also developing our own. We are also ensuring that our capacity is built. And it's not just for your country, but also for the region. And then also ensuring that there is mutual benefit in terms of once you have developed that resource, then you can also be able to train around people or train people in neighbor organizations. For instance, you could look at projects like or organizations like KenGen and GDC, which are the organizations that have done flagship projects here in Kenya. And what they have done is that initially we relied a lot on experts from other countries because we were not developed. But over time, we have developed a technical expertise that is quite specialist. And now, at least, we are able as a country to get almost everything. And even what we are not perfect at, we are still developing. That's it. Thank you very much. I believe I am on time. I try to keep time. Please let me know if you have questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Engineer Phyllis, for the presentation. I believe members have understood and perhaps have a clarity of what is happening in terms of the geothermal and the progress that we've made so far as a country in terms of generating the clean energy, really, and also the challenges. So from what I have understood is that some of the challenges are policies and, majorly about people management in terms of ensuring that these projects are a success. And I think that is a point to take, if not for all of us, to just be able to understand how we can align ourselves in terms of getting a resolution in that. So this is where I open the session to every participant. If you have a question, you can raise your hand up and ask. If not, you can type it in the chat and we will be able to read it aloud so that everyone can be of benefit. Before I start off with the question, allow me to recognize the presence of leaders in the industry. Let me call them leaders. We have Francesco Fritella. Hello, Francesco, can you hear me? Francesco is the program's chairperson of SPE International Geothermal Section. We have had few interactions with him in terms of these conversations, and it is good to see that we are learning from each other in terms of collaboration and understanding what works best here, what works best from where he's coming from, and bringing the industry to a float. Francesco, can you hear me? Sure. All right. Let's hold on to Engineer Karu. Kindly take the floor.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Engineer Mathenge, for the very detailed presentation. I actually do have a question referring to that slide on Kenya's geothermal growth, where it shows that we are at 950 megawatts. Is it a safe assumption to say that those are the quote unquote online wells, and our capacity, i.e., that is the wells that are not connected to power plants, might put us at a greater geothermal wealth, so to speak, like our resource is greater than that?
Thank you. I don't know if you want to take a few questions or should I go ahead and answer?
Yes, you can go ahead as we get other questions from the panel, please.
All right. Thank you, Engineer Karu. Our installed capacity that we're using to generate electricity is actually 950 megawatts. That is what contributes to about 48% of electricity in Kenya's geothermal mix. However, in terms of megawatts that have been developed and have not been connected to the grid, we have quite an amount. We have way over 1,000 because this we have not considered oncoming projects like the 70 megawatts that is upcoming for the phase 1. That is besides the 105. As you're aware, a project like in Mathenge, we have 105 megawatts for phase 1. We have been able to deliver 35 megawatts to the grid, and we intend to deliver another 70 megawatts, of course, through IPPs by the end of the year and maybe early next year. So that means that we have not factored that 70 megawatts into the calculation. In other areas that have been developed in Kenya is, for instance, in Mathenge, we have only considered phase 1. That is not to mean that the steam reserves we have in terms of energy is that it, because our capacity is much more, even in terms of what has already been drilled. In other areas, for instance, we have one of the projects at advanced stages, like the project in Paka Geothermal project, which is in Baringo, Silali. We have staff in reserve, steam in reserve of over 70 megawatts right now that has not been connected to the grid. That is what we are working towards developing. And that is what I said is in advanced stages. So 950 is safe to say that is what we are producing in terms of electricity connected to the grid. As for the other reserves, we are way above 1,000. Peter, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, you have. Thank you.
All right. There is really no question. Dear members, you can type in your questions. If not, you can unmute your mics and ask away. Basically, my concern will be in the global market, what is happening and what is as well going on in the country. Do you think we are in a position where other countries can benchmark and we can be able to offer the knowledge and the technical on how to go about the drilling process and all that, having in mind that the process of growth was first of all very slow and then it shoot way up. Do you think we conduct enough studies, researches for ourselves to call industry leaders in terms of geothermal across the globe?
Should I wait for a second or should I just go ahead?
Please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. And again, the purpose of putting the slide on the growth is to demonstrate that we have not been stagnant and that even in terms of development, we were growing, but very slowly at a snail pace. And then we sat back as a country and realized that, hey, this is not the pace that we would want to be. And if we must reach the goals and we must offer the energy that we require, then we must do better. So for that reason, the country sat and they said the policymaker, the financiers, and of course the community, all the stakeholders, they sat and said, oh, this is what we must do. And what did we do? We ensured that we looked at the de-risking. We realized that de-risking was an issue. We started to de-risk. The government started to de-risk the projects. We also, one of the things that you know that is not just specific to geothermal is land acquisition. You know that for you to be able to develop a certain project, then you must be able to acquire that land. And most of the time, you will have problem with communities because what will typically people do? They are going to go and buy land in that specific area, which they have had wind that you're going to develop. And they are going to make sure that the prices are high so that by the time now you come to acquire the land, it becomes very expensive. And there is a lot of rigmaroles and, roundabouts around getting that. That has happened in Kenya and in other parts of the world. So the organization then realized that, hey, this is also something we must address. For us to be able to grow, we must engage our communities. We must be able to tell them why we are acquiring this land, what this project will do for them, and explain to them in a manner that they understand. So even as we come to develop the project, then we do not face the resistance because they already understand. Because most of the time, people say no because they don't understand or they feel you're cheating them. So if you tell them the truth, you tell them the benefit on them, you tell them why they should accept it, you tell them how they will benefit, I don't see how they would say no. The other issue the country looked at was legal and regulatory frameworks. because you had to get all forms of licenses from all forms of organizations. The country certain said, for us to make it easy for other people, for us to make it easy for developers, for us to make it easy for investors, then let's ensure that we streamline this process a little longer, a little better, so that the process can be a little more seamless. And that's why you've seen that in Kenya is one of the places you've had progressive changes in terms of legal framework, right from 1982 when we had the first act coming to when we had even the policy and even the reviewed in 2019 and even a policy that's ongoing under review. And you realize that it's been progressive to try and address the gaps that we've changed. So to answer your question, should people benchmark in Kenya? Yes, and absolutely yes. And it's not necessarily because we are the ones leading in Africa, but because, yes, we are leading in Africa, but also we are leading by doing the right thing. We are leading by learning from our mistakes. We are leading by also ensuring that we get the best lessons and the best ways to do things from organizations that have done it before. And it's because of it, inclusive of training our people that you're able to do. So now if you come to the country, we will demonstrate to you how we've been engaged the communities, how we've gone around legal handles, how we've gone about environmental handles, how we have particularly been able to engage with private investors to be able to deliver projects, and also to ensure that we give the liberty to the IPP so that they are able to deliver the best efficient turbines or technology into our projects without so much curtailing them, but also allowing for technology and for change. Thank you. I hope I've answered your question.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for the response. Let's head on straight to the chat box. There is a question from Eric. He's asking, does GDC have competitors in the exploration of steam for geothermal development? If so, who are these other players in this space? Yeah, I think we can answer that. Then we can head on to the two questions as we wind up the session.
All right, thank you. I don't know if you can just read out the questions for me so I answer them together.
Sure, that's okay. All right, that's fine. So the other question is from Arnold Nyaga. Thank you, engineer, for that elaborate presentation. What's your estimation for the geothermal potential in Menengai West, or otherwise phase 3, 5, and 4? From Anne, she's asking, I am a little off topic, but what advice would you give to young geoscientists just entering the field and those who are passionate about joining the geothermal field? And the last question will be from Miss Komen. She is asking, what is the scalability on the direct use application that youth can engage in looking other potentially rich geothermal countries?
Okay.
Yes, you can. I think you can answer those questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I will start with the question about Menengai West and the capacity. And I'm smiling because, you see, as I said, one of the challenges we've had in development of geothermal is getting the social license and also issues around managing communities. And I'm smiling because one of the issues that we have had very actively, and I think just a few months, is the community from the community members from the prospect around Menengai West, commenting and even up going to the media, to the Kenyan media rather, and commenting that they have some grievances that they would want addressed. So for that reason, allow me not to answer that question, but please chat me outside so that I can answer it for you, and go right to the question on the other question was what? Other state developers? Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Allow me then to go about state developers. If GDC have competitors, absolutely, GDC have competitors. Actually, GDC was formed under the sessional paper in the 2000s, and this was just to fast track development of geothermal energy, but also to de-risk, to ensure that private sector and other stakeholders are able to onboard and develop the geothermal. That is not to mean that we were the first. Before GDC was an organization that then was called KenGen, and these are the people, actually, this is an organization that had drilled wells even in the 1950s. In fact, they are the ones who brought on board the first what is called Olkaria 1, which was the first 45 megawatts into the grid. That was a combination of 3 turbines, each of 15 megawatts. So to answer your question, yes, we do have other competitors. We have people who like Engen. We have others like the Agile that have drilled Akira. We have other organizations. Again, we have actually more people with licenses. We have 2 public entities with licenses, that is GDC and Kengen, but you also have another over 10 people that have licenses. However, they have not been able to develop much because of the costs and the risks that we just discussed. The other issue is the scalability of direct use applications that youth can engage in looking for other potentially rich geothermal countries. Now, the issue of geothermal direct use, and allow me that this is a discussion that needs to be had and needs to be had over a whole PowerPoint presentation that maybe slightly is more than 1 hour. If you look at countries like Japan, they have what they call onsens. That is where you can go and have a bath, a naturally heated bath. If you look at countries like Iceland, you can go to the, I think what is known most in the world in terms of geothermal direct use applications, in terms of the power that they have. If you look at other countries, they've been able to also extract lithium and also been able to develop what is so-called products that can be used for therapeutic uses, even on the face or for beauty products. Here in Kenya, we have had geothermal being used for heating of greenhouses, which is used to grow flowers. Naivasha being one of the places where that has successfully been done, and being a world leader. And also in terms of the project that we have and the projects that we are trying to demonstrate, we have a great grain dryer that is in Mathenge. We also do have, we've done fish farming, and also we've done greenhouse farming, just to try and hit the environment to ensure that then we speed up the process of growth without introducing chemicals. Now, the scalability is there. I think what we have not been able to do is to televise enough what people can be able to do, because what in the past and what traditional has been done is that geothermal has been considered as for development of electricity. But even if you look at one of the issues that we've done, we need to do is to ensure that we look at the whole spectrum in terms of all the heat, all the steam besides electricity. So yet it's scalable. And even as we look at projects that GDC looks to on board, we are looking at other direct projects that I hope you will be watching the screen and watching the news on our websites, because you will be hearing very good news. And then what again would I tell a young scientist? Be a young scientist. You're capable. You can. You should. You are as ignoble as the goals you have set in your mind. You are as successful, or that lack thereof, as the goals you have set in your mind. Once you get your degree or your diploma or your qualification, it is a stepping stone to be able to achieve whatever you can in your dreams, whatever you envision. Do not be afraid to try new things. Do not be afraid to get dirty. Do not be afraid to embrace technology. And most importantly, do not ever, ever doubt yourself. Because the biggest asset you have is in between your ears, is your brain. So even as you work towards several other issues in life, developing other people, helping other people, help yourself
First, yeah.
help yourself, develop yourself, and move. In fact, if you must, put yourself first. Put yourself first. After God, put yourself. Because you cannot help other people if you cannot help yourself. You cannot motivate other people if you do not motivate yourself. You cannot grow other people if you do not grow yourself. And success is something that you must think of and describe. What success is to you is not what success is to me. So if you ask me, my idea of success as Gadoni is different from your idea of success as person X. But I want you to go and sit and write it down on paper and vision that success. Close your eyes and imagine yourself successful. Wake up and walk to your dreams, because no one, absolutely no one, can stop you when you want to go. Even the world will conspire to help you. And God on your side, you can absolutely do it. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much for that powerful conclusion. I know that we are joined by young professionals from different sides, from geoscientists to petroleum engineers, and what a way to get their spirits up in terms of venturing into different fields and whatever really they're setting their minds to do. Thank you so much, Engineer Phyllis. Thank you so much to our participants. This has been a productive session. We would love to hear from you. Kindly check on your chats, drop in any questions. Also, give us feedbacks on how we conducted this session and how we can better ourselves in the other technical sessions. In case you require a certificate, mostly to the students and young professionals, do not hesitate to reach out, request for it, and we will be able to assist you. Engineer Phyllis, thank you so much for sharing your email. Dear participants, you can ask questions, get clarification, and let's keep the conversation going in terms of professional development across the energy sector. Myself, thank you so much. Without further much ado, we are far beyond schedule. Allow me to close the event today. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Engineer Phyllis.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and I hope to see you next time on a different conversation. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you, Engineer. Thank you, Sarah. Bye-bye.